My name is Mark Tucker, and I'm head teacher at the John Frost School in Newport.
Why did you decide to become a RADY school?
About 8 years ago, I attended a conference with the EAS, and in that conference, RADY was highlighted as an area of good practice, an area to consider. So I went back to the school and had a discussion started with the deputy head teacher at the time, Lucy Purcell. And then following that discussion, Lucy started to lead with the leadership team in the school on RADY work. The important thing I need to point on that was that it was a whole school initiative that really started with the leadership team fully engaging in it, and then got the full support of all the staff. And it's not just an add-on, it's been integral in everything we do in the John Frost School. We really drove with it fitted in with our vision of high expectations and empathy, not sympathy, for our disadvantaged learners.
What has the journey been like for the school?
I feel that RADY journey has had a tremendous impact on our school. We feel that from the day one we had fantastic support from Louise Blackburn, who challenged us as well as supporting us. RADY permeates everything that we do as a school, especially leadership level. There's really a leadership meeting that takes place when RADY isn't discussed or how it impacts on our RADY learners, the initiative or the work that we're doing. So our drive for excellence at our school starts with our young learners, with the most disadvantaged young learners, and how we can support those in our school.
How are you evaluating the impact of your RADY work across the school?
RADY work is not just an add-on to our evaluative process. RADY work is integral in everything we do and how we evaluate everything across the school. We have particular focus at the moment on looking at our work extracurricular-wise and how our young people are engaging from a RADY background in our extracurricular work.
What are the key next steps for your RADY journey?
Although our RADY students are achieving better than Wales and LA averages in their performance data currently, we still feel that there's a long way to go for our school, and we are continuing looking how we improve our support for our RADY learners. The next steps for us are a real drive on student attendance, student skills, and supporting our RADY learners to engage in the wider aspects of school, such as our extracurricular activities.
Hi, I'm Danielle O'Leary. I am a member of the leadership team at the John Frost School. I am also the RADY lead of the school.
What are the key things you've learned from implementing RADY in the school?
I think the first thing is that we need to look at things from a leadership level. That if you're going to truly drive RADYs in the school, then we need to have a joint approach with a clear vision that is shared then with all staff and that permeates through all of your processes and systems. So we're looking at our school development plan, we're ensuring that that feeds into our departmental planning, but also, and really pivotal, is that we're planning impactful and meaningful professional learning. We need to make sure that we're all singing from the same hymn sheet and that the students from the most disadvantaged backgrounds are our main focus. And in our school, where 28% of the learners are free school meals, we're the 21st most deprived school in Wales. And when we look at the Wales Index, 55% of our students live in poverty. It is imperative that we are looking at their story and their needs when we plan our curriculum, our pastoral systems, and our day-to-day running of our school.
How do you effectively monitor the impact of RADY on learner progression and attainment?
Again, I think it's about that whole school planning. So from a leadership level, we look at holding ourselves accountable. So that's having someone in the leadership team that is responsible for RADY on their portfolio. It's then ensuring that we upskill the rest of our team as line managers to ensure that they are still following the same principles. So when we meet with our heads of department, for example, we're able to have meaningful discussions. So what that looks like in practice for us is that we ensure on our line managers' minutes, for example, that free school meal students and their attainment in lessons, the results from the data drops, their approach to learning scores are always looked at on a fortnightly basis and then a monthly basis when the drops come in. We also ensure and have added, as time's gone on, different elements. So, for example, we now have a comparative book look, which is really significant for us because if you look at a RADY students in isolation, you might have a book that looks neat. You might have work that looks strong. You've got, a good range of connectors and actually you're quite happy. But if you then take that child and you match it with a student that has the same amount, same CAT score, has the same level of attendance, should have the same trajectory of attainment, and you put both of those books together, you may then see differences. And sometimes it's looking at what you want the student to be and then planning backwards. You've identified the gaps. So what we do now as a school, we have a senior leadership booklet, which feeds into a HOD booklet. And we take 12 books every 12 weeks. And we have 6 RADY and 6 non-RADY of different abilities. And then we assess the 2 sets of books and we look at what gaps are there and how we can then look at closing the gap. So it takes an idea and it makes it tangible. And it gives our HODs an action plan, which then can be fed through to the departments, which then allow us on a classroom teacher level to support the students that most need it. Again, we look at our pre-mortem exam result drops. We look at what would happen now if these were the results in the summer. Would we be happy? And when we look at that, we look at, where are our FSM students? What can we do? What can we put in place to help them? And we ensure that when we're looking at our revision sessions, we have registers, our FSM students coming. And so one of the things we have done to support our RADY learners is look at providing extracurricular activities. And that's been really pivotal to give opportunities that our learners don't necessarily have. And that may be with sports, but it's also with academic attainment, with revision sessions, etc. And I think this is where RADY is a journey, because when we started to look at this, we thought it was a great idea. And I think it is a great idea, but we hadn't necessarily got rid of all the kinks. And the first year we ran our extracurricular activities, we didn't see as many FSM students attending as we would have liked. So then we had to do a piece of work ourselves, and we used it for our MPEP to have a look and say, well, what are the barriers? What haven't we mapped? And actually for us, there were 2 things. The day we were holding the sessions happened to be a day that mosque was running an extracurricular activity. So we were trying to take children out of mosque when 30% of our learners are from a BAME background, a majority are from an Islamic background. And the other thing is we weren't looking at how they got to and from school. So we were providing an opportunity, but we weren't giving them a safe space home. And in the winter time, on the run up to exams, that's really, really important. The catchment areas for our schools, 5 out of the 6 are in the most deprived areas of Wales. So parents don't necessarily want the children walking home late at night in the winter months. So to alleviate those 2 issues, we changed the days and we put on a school bus that would take children home. And then we saw such success with that now we do 2 days every week on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, and we call them our Wellbeing Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So RADY is a journey. We don't get it right the first time. It's also incremental. When we started our RADY journey, the key thing for us was profile, predict and prevent. What was the issue when we looked at our Key Stage 4 results? What did we need to do to stop it happening next? And what could we put in place? And then where could we build that up and up and up as we went through? So we started off with 6 non-negotiables that all tied into our SDP and all tied into our priorities to make sure we had good, ethically informed and well-rounded individuals leaving our school. And then from there, we've been able to grow them to another 8 in total. And we keep being reflective and looking at the impact of these on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
What barriers have you faced in implementing RADY, and how have you worked to overcome those barriers?
I think there are many barriers you can face when you are picking up any new initiative. And I think, for us, RADY wasn't necessarily new. The name might have been new to us, but looking after the young students or the young learners in our school that were most in need had to be part of our school's fabric. But I certainly know that one of the barriers that, in speaking to other colleagues, they've faced is bringing their teams with them. And to me, that wasn't a barrier we faced necessarily. But I think the reason that we didn't face it was because we had a very clear vision and a very clear ethos that came from the top. For us, it's about role modeling. It's about being the change you want to see. And it's not asking anyone to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. And if you know our head teacher, you would know that from the moment you come onto our site, he's the person greeting students at the gates. He's meeting them from the bus. He's picking up the litter. And he definitely is the change that you want to see. And we had a whole school launch where, as a leadership team, we addressed the team and we talked about why this was purposeful for our students. We won the hearts and mind battle, I guess, which is, to me, the most significant, because if you don't bring people with you, this won't change. And if you don't have a RADY representative at leadership who can then talk to your other colleagues and hopefully develop a team within the whole school, it won't change. Some things to be mindful of, I think, are probably unconscious bias. And they don't necessarily come from people that have a privileged background. They can also come from people with a disadvantaged background. So, I have a free school meal background. I didn't have necessarily all the negative aspects that a RADY student could have when you look at paper and you look at some of the things that perhaps a RADY learner doesn't have. So it could have been that I had a bias that actually that's not true. That isn't my story, therefore it isn't this child's story. But actually, I think the key thing here is looking at your school, opening your teachers, your practitioners, your caterers' eyes to what your learners' lives are like. For example, making sure that your teams go into the area. So we ensure that our staff have seen our catchment area, and it's not just the leafy area that looks very pretty. You walk onto our site, and we're like a middle class school. You've got children in blazers, smiling, saying, "Hi, how are you? Wonderful manners." And that's fabulous. And they've got opportunities here. They have extracurricular activities here. But that isn't necessarily their lifestyle every single day when they go home. And I think it's about unpicking their barriers. It's about making sure that your teams know that they make the weather. And it's really important for our learners from disadvantaged backgrounds to have that role modelling and to have that empathy, but not sympathy, in an approach to helping them be the best they can be, because life is going to be difficult for every child that we teach, and it's going to be slightly more difficult for them. I think another thing for me is understanding that change takes time. And I think it's about, again, as a leadership team, understanding that when you take on the gauntlet, when you're going to pick up RADY and truly embed it, you are talking a minimum of a 5-year plan to see results academically. I think you are talking about making it, as I said before, incremental changes really. And it's having a path that you're willing to follow and ready to follow. It's also understanding that as you go through that path, you are going to need to continue to re-educate your teams because your teams keep changing. And as staff leave and people come through, you have to continue the focus. And it can't be dropped. You can't think it's embedded and therefore I don't need to do it anymore. I think that to me is about being reflective consistently as a bunch of practitioners.
What's changed in the school since the introduction of RADY?
I think that we've got a holistic approach to tackling poverty and to closing the attainment gap. I think we understand the challenges that our learners face and that we are now able to weave our systems together more consistently and effectively. So, for example, when we are unpicking behaviours, when we're unpicking ALN, we're also looking at it from a RADY guise. We are building our packages of support with our learner at the heart of every decision, but also we are ensuring that we aren't just focusing on well-being, which I think is where you start your RADY journey, but we're very much focusing on teaching and learning, which is where we're seeing the results then with our academic performance. We can see that all of our teachers have collective teacher efficacy. We all have the same messages and the same viewpoints, standpoints as a school. And there is a true focus on closing that attainment gap. We're very grateful that we can celebrate that success now through results and in through various data sets. So when we look at our Key Stage 4 results, as a school, we are bucking the trend. Our FSM students are outperforming our family of schools, local average and national average. Our attendance of RADY students, again, is above local, national and our family of school average. And that isn't a fluke. That is because of the hard work that the team do in this school. And that is because it is on all levels, and leadership on closing the attainment gap is from classroom teacher to our HODs, to our canteen team, to our caterers, to our premises staff. Everyone in our school knows that we are here and focused on eliminating the challenges and the barriers that our disadvantaged learners face. And now we're able to see that with happy, healthy individuals who are willing to come and talk to us and communicate with us when there are problems. We've got mentoring systems that are in place. We've got challenge caps and trophies and rewards. We've built our systems up now that we've got enrichment opportunities. So again, when we started with 6 RADY non-negotiables and we wanted our ethically informed students, we started to look at, what was missing in the curriculum and what were we not providing as a school that perhaps we could. And we've been able to look at now developing an enrichment system, taking away rewards trips, taking away rewards for coming to school. You are to be in school. That is your entitlement. We will give you a safe, secure place where you are cared for and nurtured. And in return, you will come and you will access our learning. But what we will also build for you is a package of additional care and support that makes you a more rounded learner. So all of our students, 7 to 10, now get 2 free enrichment trips per year. And there'll be things like going to a museum, going to the beach, going to a park, learning the wider skills that will make them more comfortable in the wider world when they leave our school setting. So I think lots of things have changed. Some of them are small, some of them are mighty. In many ways, we were already a RADY school before we knew what RADY was because of who our learners are and the catchment we have. But we now certainly have a more joined up approach, and we would never go back. We will never ever go back. And if anything, we will just keep building and building. And look, there's been challenges. COVID's been a challenge. I think it's been a challenge nationally, getting children back through the door, building trust and rapport. Again, this is about our teams. It's about bringing your teams with you. We are one of the only schools I know that go out to parents' houses of every child in year 7 who is a RADY learner. We visit homes. We make transition easier because, yes, our school is easy to reach in theory, but actually if you're a parent with 3 children from a disadvantaged background, it may not be easy for you to come to us. So we break down that barrier and we go to you. And that means that before our students even enter the 6th week of school, we have met with every parent and we know more about them. And they know that they are part of our school and they are the star player of a team. And we're just here to support them on their journey.
How do you effectively apply the RADY principles to teaching and learning?
I think that can be the most challenging part of the journey, is when you go from well-being into teaching and learning and bringing everything into that classroom environment. But the RADY principles, and if you look at challenging education, for example, and the resources that really help and support you with that, the key thing for us is knowing your learners. So every classroom teacher needs to know who has a disadvantaged background in their classroom. And that doesn't mean that they're pointing at them, but it means that they've got their seating plans, that they're thinking about differentiating their tasks, that they're modelling and role modelling. One of the big things for us when we looked at language, for example, and developing extended writing, we give students opportunities to use new vocabulary, but we don't necessarily model it verbally. So our students don't get the opportunity perhaps to use these words in a sentence out loud. And we assume perhaps that they are then taking that language and applying it. So I think we need to unpick lots of our practices and see how our professional learning and our delivery and our strategies then impact our learners in the classroom. So when we looked at our whole school priorities of teaching and learning for 23-24, for example, and we were looking at engagement and passive learning, which again, when you look at RADY students and you stereotype RADY learners, you're looking at perhaps learned helplessness, disengagement in the classroom. So we knew by picking this priority, we were going to be supporting the 28% of our learners from a RADY background, but also what's good for RADY is good for everyone. So if we had solid structures, so we looked at Glomov, we looked at the Teach Like a Champ strategies, we chose ones that we thought would work for our learners in our school. We then developed a professional learning plan for staff. And I cannot stress how important it is to calendar in your professional learning, because we all know how difficult our calendars are and how we can't add anything later on. So it's having your plan for this academic year or the next academic year, 25-26, created in June, July, knowing what it's going to look like in your calendar, so then you can have that impactful PL. And in our school, we have 2 professional learning sessions a week. They're only 10 minutes long, so they're short and sharp. Both focus on teaching and learning. One is skills specific, and then one will be focused on a need that has arisen and been unpicked by the team. We often have ones that will focus specifically on RADY learners, and it'll be things like learned helplessness. It'll be knowing your cohorts, because every single year we're changing our students in our classes. And for our RADY learners, that can be really challenging. They're building new relationships again with teachers that they don't know. So it's our job to be that pushy parent, but it's our job to do the background work on them and to support them. And for me, that again relies on leadership in all levels and the importance of the classroom teacher. Solid structures, high expectations, being well planned, and evaluating impact. And when we talk about progress, it's that AFL every single lesson. It's not waiting for the data drop. It's not waiting for the mock results, but it's understanding that X and Y are different. and that actually I need to spend more time with X doing this. And by doing that, I'm going to bring them forward. But that questioning in the classroom is also bringing everyone else forward with them. And for us, that's been really significant. And that's why one of our RADY non-negotiables is that physical meal students or RADY students' books are marked first. So they're given the opportunity to receive feedback first, and then that informs planning and delivery in the classroom.
Hi, I'm James Rees, Deputy Head Teacher at the John Frost School.
What has had the biggest impact on your RADY learners since the introduction of RADY to the school?
Well, it's about developing a really strong culture of learning, making sure we have really high expectations of the students, making sure there's no opt-out. Undoubtedly, it's our introduction of Ready to Learn, our behaviour policy, that's allowed and eliminated all low-level disruptions, so everybody is engaged in learning throughout each week.
What's had the biggest impact on your role as a wellbeing lead?
Without doubt, it's the pandemic. It's had a major impact on the young people in terms of their own well-being. It's taken a number of years to recover from that pandemic. One of our main focuses is making sure that the young people are in school every day to get the benefit academically and socially. Last year, attendance was up 1.9%, which shows that well-being is recovering and the students are happy in school and benefiting from the excellent teaching and learning that's going on every day.
How do you ensure the well-being of your most disadvantaged learners? And here we're thinking pastoral support or extracurricular activities.
It's about getting it right for the individual. Every circumstances are different, and well-being means different things to different students. It's all about knowing them, knowing what the barriers are, what support they need, using external agencies and all the support strategies we have in school. Every Friday morning we have an inclusion meeting where we discuss the needs of each individual people that we've highlighted that requires support, making sure, for instance, we use the ALN processes, we use all the external agency support, making sure that we communicate really well with the students and with parents, and then having a wellbeing curriculum that meets their needs.
Can you explore a little bit about how the curriculum has changed since you've introduced RADY?
Well, it's about getting the provision right for the young people, making sure that we're meeting their needs on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that we've done is we've created an off-site provision called Aspire. So with some of our students who are most in need, have an off-site provision in working with the youth service, which has been established over a long time and has been very successful to meet their academic and social needs. We've mimicked that now at Key Stage 3, where we have an Inspire project. So some of our most challenging and in need students are on site, but in a slightly different alternative program, the targeted support in the sports hall, having a slightly different curriculum and additional well-being. In order to support other learners, we also have the learner support base. We also have our isolation rooms and East rooms in order to make sure that those students are getting the support they need and identify who we need to be working with all the additional services and support we have in school.
How have you enriched the curriculum to support the well-being of your RADY learners?
Well, after the pandemic, we evaluated how we take students off-site, and during the leadership meeting, we discussed how are we going to support our RADY learners and the experiences that they should have whilst in school. For some of our students, they'd never been to the beach or they'd never been to a museum. So what we decided to do was traditionally we would take 60 to 80 students on a rewards trip. But now we have an enrichment experience where we take the whole year group. All the experiences are free. The school pays for the transport. We organise with facilities like Cardiff Museum and St Fagans before Christmas, so they get an education experience. And then after Christmas, in the summer term, they have a well-being experience. For instance, going to the beach, going to Margam Park, Port Kerry Park, and enjoying and socialising in the outdoor environment.
Hi, I'm Rob Gregory, Deputy Head Teacher at the John Frost School, in charge of standards and curriculum.
What changes to teaching and learning have taken place since the introduction of RADY to the school?
One of the key changes is the RADY uplift, where we change the targets for all our RADY students and we raise them, just to raise the aspiration and the expectations for all students. What that does is it allows us to, in our standards meetings, if I have standards meetings with heads of department, it allows us to focus on the students who are furthest behind target. And if they're furthest behind target, with the uplift, that tends to be our RADY students. So the conversation straight away turn to our RADY students. With our progress coordinators or heads of year, standards meetings there, we focus on the approach to learning. Obviously, academic performance is not a choice. Approach to learning is a choice. So we focus on any students with poorer approach to learning, and again, giving that RADY focus in every single meeting. And RADY really becomes a golden thread throughout all our meetings, where we're constantly talking as staff about our RADY students.
How do your classroom teachers support their RADY learners in their areas of learning? If you could give some examples, please.
Yeah, knowing our RADY students is the most important aspect there. Our staff are aware, they have their seating plans set up. They're ready to subtly hand out equipment if required at the start of lessons, or easy access to equipment. They know where their RADY students are. They will sit them close to the aisles, so there's easy access to look at their work and help those students. With regards to questioning as well, staff will engage in questions with our RADY students, might prioritise them, making sure we're asking the right question to the right student. When it comes to marking books, we will prioritise our RADY students just to make sure when we're fresh marking our books, we're giving the very best feedback to our RADY students. And a really important aspect is the positive engagement with stakeholders. So positive engagement with parents. For example, we have maths test heroes, we have geographer of the month, and we will always make sure there's proportional representation, if not more, of our RADY students receiving that positive message home.
What's been the impact and progress for your RADY learners?
For the last 2 years now, our FSM students have performed incredibly well at GCSE. We've outperformed the Welsh Government modelled expectations, the family average, the local authority average, the Wales average in every single performance measure, which again just shows the impact that's having. But the impact is clear to be seen elsewhere in the school as well. The culture in the school, the positive attitude of our students, and improved confidence of so many of our students is clear to see. Not only our results, but also our evaluative processes clearly show that we're making good progress with all our RADY students. Also, the school has a key reading focus, and our reading data shows that we are consistently bringing our RADY students up to the Wales average throughout the school with our focus on reading.